Okay, awesome. Welcome to Worthy Women Wednesday. This is my friend Jillian, and today we're going to be talking about all the things financial empowerment when it comes to this conversation. The Worthy Women Academy is all about empowering ladies to choose something for themselves, as well as be able to give you resources that are going to be available to you to help you move through some hard things. And financial abuse is something that me and her feel very passionate about as we had to learn on our own. And so that's why she's here. So welcome, Jillian. I'm so glad that you're here and
Thank
happy to
you.
have.
I'm
And
excited.
please tell us, how did you get started? What was this moment for you?
So, interesting story. Something I never even imagined getting into the financial field. That wasn't something that I dreamed of doing. But after years of spiritual coaching, I wanted to impact women and people in general in a different way that was going to be more foundational to help them build from. So I decided I was going to go on Indeed and just get a regular job. But first I did my natal chart and all of that. And financials, like financing and consulting, was on the list of ideal careers, and I was just like, nope, I don't know about that. But when I was on Indeed, like 2 weeks after that, I came across this post, and it kind of seemed like those posts that you're not really sure if it's a real
Yeah, kind of scary.
opportunity or a scam.
Yeah.
Um, but it said uncapped income potential and make my own schedule and all the good things. So I was kind of iffy. So I sent in my application. I got an interview, and I was I couldn't even believe this company existed. And then from there, it just started. And it was just literally from being open to a field that I never even thought was possible. And it opened my whole world and eyes about finances and how much I really understood and how much everybody really understands. Like, it was just trusting and having faith that I feel like it was divine, because I would have never considered anything financial if I hadn't have done my astrology and natal chart and all of that, because I wasn't even thinking in that field or that realm. So I was like, this is got to be divine for me. It just drop in my lap after having that information. So
Yeah.
it was like, wow.
Yeah, no, that's amazing. I love when we can just listen. And I tell people that all the time. Sometimes it's not going to make sense. You just got to do it. And then it makes sense. It's such a
Yeah.
weird, love that you just listened and trusted yourself on that. Um, what's your journey been like learning all of this, and
Wow. Um
wrap your head around telling me
Overwhelmed at first.
you don't come
Overwhelmed with the amount of information that I didn't realize I didn't know. I
right.
didn't even know financial literacy was a thing. I didn't even know that there's a whole different playbook for wealthy than there
Yeah,
are regular people. And
wild.
I always wondered, why don't they need to go to banks to get loans? How do they just make their money work? I had no idea that it was because they had a playbook handed to them that was completely different from everybody else. And I was like, okay. And it was really overwhelming at first. But after I started really learning, I was like, oh my God, we all need this. This is information that should be, this is a resource that should be for everybody, you know? And then I got mad. I got mad that that had been withheld from everyday people for so
Yeah,
long. And then it was
yeah,
empowering, because it's now I have an upper leg. Now I
yeah,
have a toolbox and a kit that I can give to people to level the playing field, so that they have the same resources as everybody else. And now the playing field could be level. And it's been an eye-opening experience. It's really forced me to grow within myself as well, because
yeah,
you're dealing with money, you're dealing with people's finances, and they're building trust within you, because it's a very taboo thing to talk about money. And to get
yeah,
people to open up and talk about their finances openly and honestly can be trying, you know. I got so many no's because everybody thought it's Primerica or it's some other MLM, not realizing that I'm not selling you something.
Yeah, no, you're right.
I'm bringing
Yeah,
you a playbook, you know?
yeah,
And it's been trying. There's been blood, there's been sweat, there's been tears working through it, but I've been with the company almost a year and I've never been happier.
yeah. No, I love that. I love that you again, like people like having to unlearn everything you know about money and break it down. And like you said,
Yeah.
I started learning about the playbooks and the things that you could do with money after like running through so much. I was like, why was nobody ever told me this, right? And
Exactly.
so, women, it's definitely kept a secret. There's
Mhm.
so many things that I didn't know that. I mean, like you said, I was just like, who who was going to tell me this,
Yep.
like, and then my family, didn't know, and so it just gets passed down through generation to generation of
Mhm.
just not knowing, right? And like, yeah, financial literacy, like, didn't know it was a thing, didn't know you could
Yeah.
go and um so getting into like, because most of my women here are here because they are dealing with some type of gap when it comes to their finances, whether they're with a partner or not. And I think it's very important, especially because I deal with women who particularly want to date wealthy men, but everybody doesn't understand that you also need to have your own financial imprint, and your
Yep.
man is, if you're going to date a wealthy man, you need to be smart about what it is that you're doing. And it's not like, you can't enjoy your soft life, but be smart about it. Like,
Mhm.
don't buddy all the finances. That's insane, right? Or some of the
Yep.
things that up. So what are some common signs of somebody being financially?
Um, what I've learned is that there's a difference in a rich man and a wealthy man.
Yes,
A
absolutely.
wealthy man is going to see your value. A rich man is going to use his money to control you.
Mm,
And so, like, the number one thing that I see, and like, and I didn't even know, like, looking back and even like talking to my adult sons and them now learning what financial abuse is like, wow, like, I went through it myself, like the number one thing that I see is, and I've experienced this, is does he ruin job opportunities? Does he get you fired? Does he keep you from working? Does he give you an allowance and then needs to see
yeah, that,
a receipt for every single penny?
wow.
Like, I see it so much where they're like, "Well, I have to talk to my husband first." You're married.
Yeah.
That's y'all's money,
Yeah.
you know? Um, and I see it a lot, and I don't think they realize that financial abuse is a thing,
Yeah. Yeah.
you
No,
know?
absolutely. I
When
never even knew you could be abused that way. You know what
when
I
a
mean?
woman tells me she has an allowance, it's a huge red flag for me,
Oh,
because then
absolutely.
I'm asking a whole new set of questions, you know?
Yes.
Or if she has to meet with me to do an appointment while he's at work,
Mm,
that's a huge red flag for me, and I see it a lot, and I see where they're, like, so scared to, like, disobey that
mm.
they need to make appointments with me in secret, and I'll do it. If
Yeah,
that's her way, if it's a way for her to have a playbook to be able to become fine, I'll do it. I mean,
yeah,
I'm
absolutely.
not gonna deny anyone, and I've seen men too. I've had a couple of men who
Okay.
it's the opposite,
Okay.
and they wanted to be the one to stay at home with the kids, and it
Mm,
became the same situation, and I'm like, "Wow." It's not as common, but it does happen every once in a while, and I've
yeah,
seen it, and I was like,
yeah. No,
"That's
I
not okay."
it's such a wild thing because again, I feel it's just a power play for positions of people who know the game better, right?
Mhm.
And again, what my whole hope and the whole reason why I built this is because there's a lot of women out there who are seeking, financial stability, which of course be with the provider, but so many of them weren't, they're thinking about the luxurious side of it and they're not thinking about, okay, like you said, there's a difference between a rich and a wealthy man, right? A wealthy
Mhm.
man that's not going to run out. The rich man is going to try to, give you those things and then try to slowly get
Yep.
you into control. And I even been met with some clients where they're coming from overseas and they have no idea. They're coming from third world countries or places
Yep.
that don't have a lot of money, and they have America, and American money is like a big thing, right? And then they come here and they're like basically in captivity and in slavery because they
Yeah.
literally have said, there's a woman I talked to and she would literally have to ask for like sanitary napkins, like literally pads and feminine care, but she would have to ask like his mother, and his mother would go with her to the store and use the card. And even though she was working and putting money into the account, it was still his control. And she never got to see any of the financials. And I think that's one of the biggest things, red flags for me. If they don't want to share information with you, they don't share bank statements with you, you don't have access to see what's
Yep.
going on. They're going to try and keep you in the dark as much as possible. You know what I
See,
mean?
yeah, the example
Yeah.
I use is celebrities like Teresa Giudice. She didn't pay any attention. She let her husband handle everything, and she
Mm-hmm.
went to prison because of his fraud
Mm-hmm.
with money. So I use examples like this. This could happen to you. You're married,
Yeah.
you're legally responsible as well. And if you don't pay attention to
Good
what
point.
he's doing,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to go down with him.
Yep.
Like,
Yep.
and I'll tell you something else that I see a lot. I see where like your spending habits. So like our first
Mm-hmm.
appointment is really on financial literacy. And then the second appointment, I do a budget analysis, which
Right.
you've done this with me. You got to see,
Yeah.
we did the breakdown.
Yes.
Something I see is their spending habits tells a lot about their money trauma. Now,
Mm.
this is how. So I was raised in poverty like you. We understand having nothing. But what happens
Yep.
is when you start having money come in, you're so excited to be able to do things you never got to do before. You have no impulse control over your money and you're just spending it because
On
you're
everything.
so excited and fascinated with, "Oh my god, now I can buy underwear every 3 months. I don't have to wear the same bra for 10 years. I can buy my kids a birthday present. I can get them a Christmas present." You can do these things you never got to do before. And so it's
Mhm.
exciting, but then you overspend. And so I know people
Yep.
who make
And don't
$100,000
save.
a year and have nothing in savings because they
Yep.
spend it, they live paycheck to paycheck. So when I see that, I really help them work on their mindset around money trauma. And one thing
Yes.
I tell people to kind of help them reframe it is this. So, growing up, I know you've been told this, money doesn't grow on trees. Yes, it
Yep.
does.
Absolutely.
You know why?
Yes.
What is money made from? Paper.
Paper.
What is
Yes.
paper made from? Trees. Money does grow on trees.
It
Money
does.
is made from trees.
Okay. Yep.
So I reframe it for them because
Yeah.
then they see it completely different, you know.
Yeah.
Or I see this a
Yeah.
lot too because I was told this. Money is evil. And wealthy people
Mm.
are evil, selfish people. So, even though you want to have money in your mind, you're thinking, I don't want to be an evil,
Right.
bad, selfish person. So,
Yep.
subconsciously, because you've been told that, you want that lifestyle, but then you worry about what type of person money is going to turn you into. And so,
Yeah.
and I see that a lot. And so I pay attention to what they say they're spending their money on and how much they're spending every month versus how much they're making.
Yeah. And that's a very valid point too, because also when it comes to emotional spending, because a lot of like these women I say they're in pretty prisons, right? So they
Yep.
literally will spend money based on the things that they can spend money on, but they'll
Hmm.
astronomically. So if it's like food, right, you start to see they're buying food everywhere. They're constantly going out to have drinks with friends because they're suppressing, right? Or they're,
Hmm.
shopping, like you said, just every
Overcompensating
month.
somewhere else.
Every month they're innovating the house. Every month
Yep.
they got a new dog or a new trinket. It's like a constant thing because they're just trying to fill a void and all they have
Yep.
is money,
Yep.
right? And they have no to say, hey, I want to put savings in it. And again, I tell women too, like if a man really loves you, he's gonna make sure you're good with or without him.
Yep.
Like start and that's my next question. What assets or what are some of the things that women need to put in place for themselves that you would say are top three you must have to be financially independent?
The top things that when I get a female client that I work on is protection for yourself,
Mm, okay.
legacy protection, retirement, and emergency savings. The biggest things I see is working on debt. Let's get that debt where you never have to worry about an emergency situation where you need to use your credit. It's there.
Mm,
But then also an emergency savings, because if we have another pandemic, what's going to happen?
yeah,
That way you're prepared, because most people statistically are not prepared for a $300 or $400 emergency, and half of
crazy.
America don't have credit cards for that emergency. So then they're up a creek. I mean, there are billions every year spent on GoFundMe for emergency and
Man,
for
that's so
paying for funerals.
that
So
is
the
so
biggest thing I work with is your debt and emergency savings, proper protection, life insurance, and then your retirement and your legacy protection, which is avoiding probate. Those are,
okay.
and I don't care if you only have a job with a checking account. You need a trust.
Yeah,
It doesn't matter.
abs
It's not just for wealthy, because
yep,
probate is not required. That's where the
yep,
government comes in and they freezes
yep.
all your assets, and they choose. They decide who gets what and when.
Yep,
And with a trust, the difference is if you have a trust, just a regular trust, they can still come in. But if you have a trust with a private company that's not owned by the government like a bank, and you have beneficiaries attached, they cannot touch it. So then the money goes exactly where you want it to go. Oh no, did she freeze again? Did you freeze? Oh no, not again.
right. Okay, sorry, my phone got hot.
Oh no.
Charger. Okay, so back to the trust. Okay, tell us more about
Yeah,
the
so
trust.
the trust,
What you were saying.
most people that have a trust in just like a bank or
Mhm,
just like an entity that is owned by the government. But there are companies who
mhm.
are privately owned. And what happens is we have lawyers for almost every state that we work with, and we help
Okay,
them set up a trust with a private company, and there's beneficiaries attached, which means the government can't touch it. So whenever you
right,
pass away, it goes exactly to who you want it to go to right
right.
away. There's no probate. And
Mm,
I always tell people, like Elvis Presley, he had nothing when he died. The government come in, froze everything. He was worth $10 million. His daughter got the house, which was about 3 million, and the government took everything else. Michael Jackson is worth
I know.
over 2 billion. His estate is still in probate after 15 years. His kids are projected to only get around 33 million to share between the three of them, and the government's taking everything else.
Wow. Yeah, it's crazy to think that those people died because they didn't have any financial literacy. It's insane. So, well, my next question would be like, let's say if a woman is in a financial abusive situation where she has limited funds to be able to invest back and free herself from that situation, what would you suggest to her to start doing in order to be able to get away from her abuser or start slowly putting her own financial imprint for herself?
Well, first I'd want to do a budget analysis to see where we're at. And
Okay.
then We would make sure her debt's in order, and then we'll start as emergency savings, and we'll figure out where she needs to be. And then from there, I would suggest life insurance and an IUL or an FIA. I prefer to go through IULs because they're indexed accounts. So it's a life
Yeah.
insurance policy with a cash
Mm,
accumulation. So what
yeah.
happens is you put, let's say, $500 a month in there, and it's going to grow by 10 to 15%. So it's got
Mm,
huge here's the difference. A 401k is similar to a IUL. The only difference is the 401k is directly in the market. So when the market goes down into the red, you lose money.
right.
But an
Right.
IUL is indexed, which means you never lose anything because the guaranteed floor is typically at 1%. So
Mm,
instead of, like, let's say you start at $100,000 and your compound interest is $10,000 that year. So the next year you have $110,000, it's going to stay at 110. It's not going to go below that. Every year it goes up. So you're not losing money. And you can use the IUL as family banking. So let's
mm,
say she wanted to start flipping homes, right, to make a profit. So let's say she has $100,000 in there. She takes out $50,000. We have to take it out as a loan, so she's not taxed. She takes out $50,000. She goes and puts it in the house, right?
mhm.
Well, she's getting her 10% on that 50,000 that's still in there, but she's still making a profit off the 50,000 that's no longer in there. It's at like 5%. So even though that money's been taken out, she's still profiting off of that potential growth. And then she can take the
Right.
money from the house when she flips it and sells it and put it back in there. So instead of having to
Huge.
get a loan, she can use her own account. And usually after
Mm,
about 2 years, that money is making money where you can pull money out. So it's like using your own
mm,
bank.
okay. Yeah, that's genius. No, I love that. I love that information because I feel like it's some women feel stuck in that situation and like, okay, well, yeah, I need to leave, but he runs all the finances. So what do I need to start doing? And like you said, those steps would be really helpful for someone to be able to at least start making those decisions because again, like I said, people really feel stuck there. And I've met a couple of moms who, they are a stay-at-home mom and they just no way to get away, no way to, and
Yeah.
sometimes it's life threatening. I think we've all been in those situations where we're like, I need to get out of here, but how the hell do I
Yeah.
start? So I think what you do is super important is to be able to spread that message and give women more awareness around what it is that they need to do. Um, what would you say in terms of a success story that you felt like really connected to that was like something that you seen or was something that you were like helping a lady through and you were able to help her like navigate this kind of situation?
We had a client where um, they went to college to be a doctor. She had hundreds of thousands of
Mm.
dollars in debt, and she was sitting at like 140,000 still owed, and she was paying like 2,900 a month on her loans to
Oh
pay
God.
back, which to me is
Oh
insane.
God.
Like
Yeah.
that's a house payment.
Insane.
And
Yeah.
she wasn't able to build savings. She wasn't able to do anything because her money was spent, right? So I got with my trainer and we set her up with a company we work with, knocked her down to $1,200 a month. And they
Wow.
knocked off 20,000. So they bought the
Wow.
debt, and instead of 140,000, she only owed 120 now, and she literally was half the payment, and she could put that money back into savings, get a life insurance policy, and start a retirement account.
Bomb. That's beautiful. Wow. I can't even imagine having that much of a weight on you lifted because like you said, like how do you get out of that? How do you untangle when you don't
Yeah,
even know what to do? And I think that's what it all comes down to is the education and getting educated around it.
exactly.
So what can you offer the lady who's looking for you in order to get out of this space?
So the biggest thing with this company is we don't charge our clients. Our services are free.
I
We
love
charge our
that.
clients nothing. And it sounds weird because it's like, well, how do you make money? And I love the
Yeah.
analogy the CEO makes. He created this company because he saw the gap. and he hated that they only worked with wealthy people because he was like, they're not the ones that need this. The everyday
Yeah.
paycheck to
They got
paycheck people, they're the ones that need this. So he created
yeah.
his own company, and he says we're the Amazon of the financial world because, like on Amazon, if Nike wants to sell shoes on Amazon, they pay Amazon. So these companies that we set our clients up with pay us directly for bringing them a client.
Yeah.
So when they meet with me, I'm not going to be selling them anything. I'm literally my what I tell people is I want to help you elevate your financial well-being,
Yeah.
because by doing that, you're elevating your life in every other aspect of your life, right? So for me,
Yeah.
it's being able to educate them and give them the tools and resources they need free of charge.
Mm. I love that. And because a lot of times, like you said, it's overwhelming, and then you finally get the advice, and then you have to pay astronomical amounts of money, and then you're like, okay, well, how am I supposed to have the
Yeah.
money for all of these fees and to have this conversation and then have the money to put away? So I think what you
Yeah.
do is really amazing. Where can people find you?
I am on TikTok. I am on Facebook, Instagram. You can find me on TikTok. It's Jillian Marie. And on Instagram, it's Jillian Marie Travels, and then Jillian Wilson on Facebook.
Yeah, cool. And we'll put all of that in the show notes. So you guys can definitely hang out with Jillian and go see the content that she's creating on TikTok. It's really cool that she's breaking some stuff down, and she does go live and stuff to kind of just be able to answer some questions, because I know that like this can go on. We could talk about this for hours. And I've seen
Yeah.
so many women, they get divorced or they like step out and they're like, okay, I want to move on, but I don't know how to run my finances. And
Yeah.
seeing women be able to be empowered in that way gives us more choices. And so I love that you're doing this for people. And I'm absolutely so amazed at like your growth and how much you have, prevailed through, especially as somebody who's come from a lot like me, just not knowing anything.
Hmm.
And now here you are spitting out all this game for us today, dropping all the gems. I love that. And so cool to see you grow, man. It's amazing. So I appreciate
Thank
you
you.
being here.
I appreciate you for having me.
Okay. You guys can also follow me on Instagram at Portia_Newton. I go live every Wednesday to cover different topics. This week we were just covering financial empowerment, and this stuff is on YouTube. You guys can like and share on TikTok. I'm Portia Newton across all platforms, and I absolutely love having the conversation. If you have any questions, feel free to drop them in the comments, and Jillian will go through and answer those as well. Have a beautiful, happy day, and know that you're worthy of the life you live and desire. The life you love and desire. Okay, let me see. I can end this. Oh, nope. That's the wrong button. Hmm. Now there it goes. Okay.